Cassava has numerous benefits that include being used as a food crop as well as an industrial plant. Its resilience in diverse climates and soil types makes it a crop of choice in many regions.
At local level, SME level and large-scale commercial level. Also, cassava has a huge opportunity. It's a climate-smart crop, and it is both food security and commercial. And also a lot of innovations coming out in the processing of cassava. We all know that cassava, the tubers, they have to be processed relatively quickly compared to other crops after harvesting. And a lot of that is currently being done manually, but there's a lot of innovations happening around processing. You scale up the work that you're doing in cassava and you network more with the other people at cassava. Because, cassava has huge potential, but it doesn't get the same kind of visibility and the same talking about and process as other crops.
So there are many opportunities along the cassava value chain that are gender responsive and can easily be adopted by people living with disability.
Smallholder farmers who have embraced cassava farming are finding it easier to farm the crop because it can grow in poor soils and is drought resistant. But the challenge is that the yield levels have been low on farmers' fields, and therefore there is need to improve harvest to drive the rapid transformation of cassava from a food crop to cash and industrial crop.
Farmers that have X number of acres, they sell to industries that they process cassava, and then it's a whole value chain of profits for everybody. We have not seen that yet in Kenya for several reasons, and that's why we decided 5 years ago to have this program. This program basically has tried to increase production yield as well, working with farmers, working with the IITA as well, and working with Calro. And that is what it has been focusing on. Also work
of building the competitiveness of cassava value chain in Kenya. I want to highlight that the country has done quite substantial improvements in terms of building smallholder farmer capacity in terms of production. And this has not been just the effort of one stakeholder or one partner, but this program has brought quite a number of teams from the research sector to the development agencies to private sector to ensure that cassava become a competitive crop in terms of profitability, in terms of income to the smallholder farmers, in terms of food and security. And we have seen great successes which has been made.
There is a lot of ongoing research and development for improved cassava.
I work with the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, IITA, based here in Nairobi. I'm a cassava scientist. I've been a cassava scientist for over 20 years and been involved with breeding some of these new varieties. Now, as we see, and as Peter's been talking about, the yields are quite low in Kenya compared to some other regions. Actually, generally in Africa, we see that our yields are about 10 tons per hectare, whereas if you look at Asia, they're getting 23 tons per hectare. Been involved with breeding some of these new varieties. Now, as we see, and as Peter's been talking about, the yields are quite low in Kenya compared to some other regions. Actually, generally in Africa, we see that our yields are about 10 tons per hectare, whereas if you look at Asia, they're getting 23 tons per hectare. And the new varieties that we have can produce up to 40 tons per hectare. So we really need to now strive to get that 40 tons per hectare at the farm level. There's a number of things that we can do. One of the main constraints to cassava is virus diseases. And there are two main virus diseases, cassava mosaic disease and cassava brown streak disease. And some of the traditional varieties that farmers grow are quite susceptible to these virus diseases. And they can impact yield tremendously. So they can reduce the yield by 70%, even 100% with severely infected plants. So one thing we really need to do is try and get farmers to access clean seed. So by clean seed, we mean virus-free cuttings, planting materials. In the case of cassava, we don't mean like maize seed or bean seed, we mean the cuttings. So one thing we're doing is working with Calro in Kakamega, in Njoro, in Matwapa, to develop technologies to rapidly multiply clean planting material and virus-free material. Then we're also working with SMEs in 4 counties in Western Kenya to help get these new varieties and the clean germplasm out to farmers.
And to change the poor perception about cassava, the crop should be promoted and new food forms adopted.
Cassava is not a poor man's crop. And I can tell you, I used to live in West Africa before. And in Nigeria, people make a lot of money with cassava, a lot of money. You know, okay, the production of Nigeria is 60 million metric tons per year. Here in Kenya, you are in 1, but people make a lot of money. Cassava adapts very well to drought conditions, especially when you have the nice varieties. That gives you a lot of chances to produce cassava even when you don't have water.
There is also need to push cassava beyond its value as a food crop for people to see new opportunities.
One of the things which is very unique about Dash Crop Limited is that we buy directly from the smallholder farmers. 60% of our 12,000 farmers are women. Reason being that we chose value chains which are female inclined or female oriented. And we realize that whenever you empower a woman, you empower the community. And a lot of the decisions that are made at the household level are made by women. So I would say that so far we have created over 400 net equivalent jobs every season. We have made sure that for each of these 60% women out of the 12,000, their lives have been transformed in a very unique way. They are able to make socio-economic decisions. They've been able to take their children to school. They are been able to afford better housing, and also nutritional. They are able to feed them families. So the benefits go beyond what we can say on a day-to-day basis. I know that in the year 2022, we came up with a draft bill on blended flours. And I wish the bill would have focused majorly on traditional flours. So far, the government is giving 10% blending of cassava with wheat and maize, which most Kenyans consume. But at the same time, standards have been developed for other flours that have cassava, basically the composite flours. So I would say, yes, this is possible. We only need to create awareness, and we also need to make sure that the products that we make are palatable, more so to the Gen Z. Because these are guys that want something that they can eat, that is tasty, and also it does not take them a lot of time to do. So I think we are headed in the right direction.
Farmers also need to learn about post-harvest technologies, since cassava starts degenerating 48 hours after harvesting.
Then after we are done with harvesting, we will come in with the machineries where we are going to do chipping. We chip them so that we can have quick drying. Once we are done with drying, that quick drying, we go now for another process of crushing or extracting protein. So basically, we are here to make sure we educate our farmers, we show them how this is done, we give them some information on where and how they can go about all these, just to ensure that we get a food secure country. To check and see what is happening across the world, just to make sure we are at par with technology.
Cassava is a good climate resilient crop and will grow in hot, dry conditions and can help boost food security in Africa. Caroline Tomno, Cass TV.